Fellow compatriots, there's a pasuk in the Chumash, in the Bible, that woe unto those who are at peace when they shouldn't be at peace. Holding your peace when you shouldn't be holding your peace is evil. Zambia is at a stage where we can no longer hold our peace. By not holding our peace, I'm referring to standing up for our country in the best interest of progress, in the best interest of the Commonwealth that we have as a nation. If we cannot voice out the issues, if we cannot offer solutions, if we cannot stand up, not just to criticize, but also to offer solutions to those of our state managers, if we cannot do this, then that kind of peace that we are holding is evil peace. Can you imagine what would have happened if during the struggle for independence, our founding fathers and mothers didn't unite? If they held their peace, you and I could not be here today talking about the freedom that we have. Fellow citizens, this morning, the focus will be on electricity, agriculture, and taxation. Now, before we talk about alternatives to the crisis that we have, the power supply crisis, we need to start by calling for accountability on the part of ZESCO. How much power is ZESCO producing? And where is that electricity going? Not too long ago, I think about a couple of years ago, there was a delegation which came from Namibia, right in the office of the Vice President, where that delegation was thanking Zambia for maintaining a steady supply of electricity to that country. And this goes to show you and I that the crisis that we are in is deliberate. And this use of drought as a scapegoat cannot be entertained. Where is the power going? How can a sensible government choose to prioritize other nations when the nation is in their need of electricity? And how can we genuinely expect to create jobs or bring about economic growth when there are power supply bottlenecks in the country? And who is benefiting from all this? These are pertinent questions that we must be asking ourselves concerning this crisis that we are in. You don't expect the people to find their own means and to sustain production. Look at what is happening, even around all shopping centers around the country. How can sustainability be there? Because we are talking about the power needs. It's not everything that can run actually on solar. Jobs are disappearing. By that I mean, I'm talking about how companies are failing to sustain the operations. And they are folding up. Because electricity is very important in the driving of the economy. And this also can be a very important lesson to us as a nation, that when it comes to appointing people in key positions, in key institutions of governance of the state, we need not look at people who are close to us, our relatives, or nepotism, because the problem that we have in Zambia, as I've said, is not tribalism, it's nepotism. You cannot accuse even the current administration that they are being tribal. There's nothing like tribalism. It's simply nepotism. When someone is appointed on account of being friendly or being known by the powers that be the appointing authority, you cannot call that tribalism. It's simply nepotism. And when people fail to deliver because you appointed them on account of their being your friends or your family members, there's nothing that you can do. So in other words, nepotism brings inefficiency. nepotism brings, it's like self-sabotage, shall I say. There's nothing that you can do. These are your relatives, these are your friends, and we need to take a very serious audit in terms of management efficiency or effectiveness across all these important state bodies. And we in the UPP have consistently said, in order to solve the energy crisis, first of all, we also need to look at the structure. It's long overdue that ZESCO must be dismantled. We need to separate power generation from distribution or transmission, if you like. ZESCO's inefficiency is something that we've been talking about for years. That is about time to if you're talking about Kariba, let Kariba be independent. Let it run as a state-owned enterprise, of course. Let it run on its own as a unit. Let Chishimba power generation plant run as a unit on its own, with its own managing director, so that they focus, so that each of these units must focus on increasing the power generation. They must look at various alternatives to generate the power. And the same must happen. You have Mamba corridors, of course. That example of Mamba corridors. So that each of all these producers of electricity can be producing as independent units, thereby supplying now to the National Power Distribution Network Authority, whatever you can call it. We have been talking about this. That this way we are going to remove inefficiency, from ZESCO itself. And even the abuses that take place. Because ZESCO is being abused. All governments that have come except just to remove the NIP government from it. At some point we saw how even the MMD government started abusing ZESCO. PF abused ZESCO. The current government is abusing ZESCO as well. ZESCO is an abused institution. And we also know that there are many agreements that ZESCO has signed in terms of loan agreements where they get huge amounts of money, and they're talking about different power generation projects across the country. Now, where is the electricity going? Because it's not true to suggest that ZESCO is underproducing. This is not true. And something has to be done about this. To remove, first of all, to remove this inefficiency, which is in ZESCO, by separating generation from transmission. This point is very important to note. And as we have noted, that it's about time that this power crisis, if genuinely it's arising from the fact that we are talking about drought, which without, we know that ZESCO is producing enough power. If we are to stop exporting that power, the entire country will have electricity immediately. You cannot respect agreements, not because there were agreements with other countries, when we need power back home to build our economy. And we are urging the leadership to be patriotic enough. We are urging the leadership to put our country before any other personal interest that they might have. This is good for all of us. This is good for stability. And this is doable. Look at other sectors that have been affected, because once you touch energy, all other sectors are affected. Production has gone down. How can companies be running generators every day, factories? This is not helping us. Now, the moment we stop the exporting of ZESCO, those countries that are depending on Zambia, they must be told, we have a crisis at home. And we have to build the economy. We have to give this, we have to give livelihoods to the people. Think of those women who are running saloons, who are running barbershops. Think of those young people who are doing the welding. The ones that we are transforming into Ifpululu, because whenever they see that there's power, whether it's coming for 1 hour, in the night we hear machines. What kind of country are we becoming? And this kind of indifference, this kind of insensitivity on the part of the leadership is evil and cannot be entertained. Let us for once put the people of Zambia before all personal interests. And the question is, in all this, who's benefiting? Because there must be someone who's benefiting in all this. And if we do a detailed analysis would actually establish that some of the owners of all these solar companies, they are in the administration. So they're trying to promote also their own interest, that if we create a crisis, then people will be buying our products. They'll be buying all these solar provisions of solar alternatives. That solar will be the alternative, and therefore people start buying all these products. And it's not correct. Running of government cannot be taken like a personal business. No, running of government and running business, these are two different things. Because what government must look at is the public good, and not the private good of individuals in the government. It's the public good of each and every citizen that must be the focus. Agriculture is one sector that can be that has historically been a major creator of jobs. But it's being undermined. Look at, until now, the poor farmers who have not been paid. And yet you promised that when you rise to power, you are going to give even more inputs to the poor farmers across the country. And also make the purchasing of the product much easier, and to bring timely and ensuring that they are paid timely. Because if you don't do this, how do you inspire growth? How do you encourage investments in the sector? Everyone is talking about power wherever you go. Those of you who are Zambians in the diaspora, and those who travel, everyone is talking about it. This power crisis that we have, that how can we invest in Zambia? Of course, we have heard of so many investment pledges, but pledges have not been translated into action, into actual investments. Fruits haven't been realized of all those pledges, because they're looking at the crisis, they're looking at the power crisis in the country. We need, therefore, to take decisive measures to stop exporting the electricity, stop exporting the power, because the country needs that electricity. It's our nation that must be prioritized before other nations. And on taxation, look what's happening. Is that when it comes to revenues, because if you let all these giants that the same energy sector lie idle, if we don't fully invest in the energy sector, and we fail to broaden the revenue bases in the country, the focus becomes now on milking. The same people are suffering. The same Zambian workers, the same ordinary citizens that are being heavily taxed. Pay as you earn must be scrapped off. Scrap off pay as you earn. Scrap off pay as you earn. It's a useless, unnecessary tax. Remove pay as you earn. When you remove pay as you earn, the people of Zambia, the Zambian workers, are going to have more disposable income. We have spoken about this. When they have more disposable income, obviously, consumption is going to increase. When consumption increases, with a stable power supply, electricity supply, there will be more production. More jobs are going to be created. And when you create more jobs, there will be growth. Zambia has done this before. We spoke about this the other day, that look, when the MMD government rose to power, they wanted to solve the transport crisis in the country. They scrapped off duty, that is import duty and VAT, on all buses, minibuses, big buses. They scrapped off that, they suspended that. And in that year, government collected more revenues. Those who believe in just taxation, they opposed it in the cabinet of Chishimba. That no, we cannot do that. The economy will collapse. What? Thinking out of the box at a time like this is very important. But the government, the president and the Minister of Finance and those of the cabinet ministers who understood why this was important, they had to implement that decision. And it paid off. Because as more buses came, more revenue was collected from road taxes, and fuel consumption, of course, increased, shall I say. And in all that, government then collected more. They solved the energy crisis, but they also collected more money in that same year. Zambia has done that one before. It has done it before. So pay as you earn is one tax that must go. We just have too many taxes. As I've said before, you pay for every liter of fuel that you buy, there is road tax. For every vehicle you see on the road, you pay road tax. Again. Why are we doing this to ourselves as a country? Why are we doing this? Because double taxation takes away the capacity of the population to spend. Double taxation must be stopped in the country. There must be a proper audit of the taxation system and give the breathing space to the people, to consumers. Because in everything that you buy, everyone pays taxes. In everything that you buy, there is tax. And remember, enterprises, they pass on tax to the consumer because tax is a cost in doing business. And therefore, it's passed on to the consumer. So the ultimate payers of all these costs are the people of Zambia. So a sensible government must look at all this. And in terms of revenues, we're asking, where will revenues come from? The question that I'm going to ask is, if you're saying, where will revenues come from? Why do we have copper? Why do we have so much in terms of mineral wealth in the country? And I think that the simple answer to that is that we have these resources to benefit the people of Zambia. Go to the United Arab Emirates as an example. God gave them the oil. What have they done? No citizen pays pay as you earn. They have scrapped off that. Instead, the revenues that they are getting from the oil, those revenues are being shared by the population, in case you didn't know. In the UAE. They are sharing the resources. And that's why you find that in an economy like the United Arab Emirates, it's the people from India, some from Africa, who are going to work there. Because the people of the UAE, they are rich people. They are getting the revenues from the state. The state is sharing the revenues from their resources, the oil resources that they have. Now here in Zambia, you go and remove taxes, you give mining corporations taxes, you give them a tax holiday. They stop paying the taxes. The question is, who is benefiting in this? If the country is not benefiting as it is, because the country is not benefiting now, who is benefiting? It means someone is benefiting. Economic hitmen are benefiting. And it's totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. We saw what the mineral resources did to this country under UNIP, ZCCM. Mineral resources built roads. Mineral resources built schools, hospitals, universities. Zambia was great. Zambia can be great again. Zambia's glory can be reclaimed. But we need to make nationalistic decisions. We need to make patriotic decisions to end benefiting or abusing the system. Zambia is being abused. The poor is being abused. Why would you go and give foreign corporations tax holidays? And remember, 10% of those copper ores that they extract, 10% is gold. Are these mining corporations accounting for that 10% of gold from these mineral resources that they are shipping out of the country every day? And then you go now to the people who are working for these mines, you tax them pay as you earn. If we can scrap off taxes, we can suspend taxes for these corporations, why should it be difficult to scrap off taxes from the workers to scrap off pay as you earn? Pay as you earn must go. Because Zambia's resources. Don't say no, but how come our neighbors? Forget about the neighbors. We are talking about Zambia. Zambia's water, immense water resources. Zambia's vast land. And remember, of the irrigable land that Zambia has, we are only using 6% for irrigation. We can harvest the water. Now, these are things that we cannot just be talking about. These are things that we must do. Bringing in heavy water harvesting technologies to harvest our water, utilize the water so that Zambia can feed Africa. You don't need to put restrictions on the exporting of maize. The reason I'm saying what we have economic hitmen. Look at this maize sector. Already they're talking about a deal to sell maize to Malawi. No, government is only to sell maize to Malawi. You go and get this maize cheaply from the people, but from that farmer who sweated. You go and get it. Now, that the export market is more lucrative. They'll make more than 1,000% profits on the sweat of the farmers. It's not government that must be involved in trading. Let the farmers trade. Let the Zambia National Farmers Union trade on behalf of the farmers. And that's why under the UPP plan, first of all, under UPP, this Food Reserve Agency is going to be scrapped off. It's the most useless institution. Food Reserve Agency of stupidity is going to be scrapped off. Scrap off that FRA. And in place of the FRA, we need to go back to winning ways. First of all, reintroduce the crop marketing board. So this crop marketing board must be represented by farmers from all the districts, because each district must have a farmers union in each and every district, which must be represented on the National Crop Marketing, National Crop and Livestock Marketing Authority at national level. And then let this board be in charge of marketing on behalf of farmers, so that whatever revenues come from exports, those revenues will be shared with their members, farmer unions across the country in the districts. And then if you're talking about strategic food reserves, we need a food bank, of course. Now, the kind of food bank that we need is it's a food bank that must be driven by the people, the farmers in the sector who understand what they're doing. Because we cannot be prescribing to farmers solutions that are not working. So we need to put the destiny of agriculture in the hands of the farmers who are sweating across the country. We also need to reintroduce this bank that we call NatSafe. NatSafe must be transformed into a fully fledged development bank, so that NatSafe can become the farmers' bank, like to take over the role of Lima Bank, the way Lima Bank functioned. This in itself will help us to focus on agriculture as the mainstay of our economy. We can shut down the mines. At our mines, if we cannot get the best deals for our mines, we can shut them down, put them on canned maintenance, and focus on agriculture. Just this agriculture itself can sustain this economy. One emerald mine can sustain the economy of Zambia. Go in the emerald sector. It's foreigners who have left the countries, who are running. I don't want to mention them. You know them. They are the mafias. And they have more money than the state. Where is the government in all this? Because the government must be the protector of the people. The government must be the protector of the resources that God so much endowed this country with. And take the destiny of our nation in our own hands. We cannot let someone be dictated to by people whose interests are to save masters we do not know outside the country. These are doable. These are not complicated. These are things that have been done before. A fool learns from his own mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others. So this country has made enough mistakes that we can learn from historically. But we can also learn from those ways that have brought victory before to our country, that have brought glory before to our country. Why was Tazama constructed? This is a question we need to ask ourselves, for instance. Tazama was constructed so as to remove the inland cost of transportation of crude oil. And that's even more efficient. Now, why can't we be talking about, measures to maximize the utilization of these important state resources? Put an oil refinery in Mpika to service Muchinga, northern and Wapula regions, including central. Put another refinery in Choma oil refinery. In other words, extend that line from that pipeline from Ndola to go to Choma. So that now that Choma oil refinery can service southern province, it can service Lusaka, it can service eastern province. And that oil refinery in Ndola can focus now on the copper belt and northwestern region, shall I say there about. These are things we must be talking about. So that Zambia can even start when you process this, it can even be the source of cheap oil. Cheap fuel, shall I say. Zambia has done this before. If you look at the economic report of 1976, 1977. If you read that economic report, in the year that Tazama was launched, fuel prices were lowered. Zambia's fuel was the lowest in the region, if not the entire continent of Africa. And there was more consumption. In fact, now, government was trying to do with consumption now, to see how do they regulate, because there's more consumption actually of oils. And more revenues were collected in the end. So these are things that we must be speaking to. Economic reports are there. When I was a member of parliament, my first task was to look at, I had to study economic reports before independence and after independence, to try and compare to see what worked and what didn't work. And from there, come up with a model that can work for the country, given the current economic environment in which the country is. Now, these are things that we must speak to and do as a country. Very crucial. And in fact, when I'm talking about oil, the focus, when I'm talking about fuel, the focus is not just about powering cars. Somebody's talking about cars. It's not about, it's beyond the cars. Remember, farmers, when industrialized, when have mechanized agriculture, there are tractors, there are all these heavy equipment that we're talking about in the agricultural sector itself. So this will benefit also agriculture. This has what we call a multiplier effect. And the good thing with agriculture, sectors like agriculture, is that there are forward as well as backward linkages. In terms of backward linkages, we need to be looking at investing in all these young people, all these corporations that are able to make tools. How can we start making even our own hand tractors? How can we be importing these hand tractors, whatever you call them, all these plows? We are importing all these things. These are things that can be made by our people. That's why we send students to go and study in the universities. And these are simple things I'm talking about. Simple engineering works that we can do locally. Produce and when we stop importing some of all these simple things, we return the reserves. We return the forex in the country. And this is what will bring growth in Zambia. This is what will bring jobs. This is what will bring stability. And all these things are doable. And these are things that those ministers who are in charge of these important sectors must be talked about. For Minister of Agriculture, talk about all these things. In terms of forward linkages, we are talking about production, food production. And these are job-creating initiatives, putting the destiny in the hands of the people of Zambia. So the role of the state must be simply policy direction and ensuring that the resources go where they matter, and seeing all these revenue leakages. How much gold is being smuggled out of through our airports? Emeralds. We need to seal the borders right at the airport. The airport or all points of entry into the country are very important to the security and economic stability of our country. Every airport, even the people who go immigration, that is border force authority. They must be equipped with all the technology that they need. Every airport or every entry, every border must have also the people who are from the mines department to be there to check, to ensure that minerals are not being smuggled out of the country. So we need every expertise at the point of entry into the country and be able to see all these revenue leakages. Even the money that we're talking about, we don't need to go and ask for aid from anybody. We don't need to go with a beggar's bowl to go and ask for aid in a country of plenty, in a country of so much. We cannot be running the affairs to benefit outsiders. Zambia was liberated to benefit the people of Zambia. This is the plan that we have. We are equally responsible to the Republic. And every citizen, this point must ring in the minds of each and every citizen. Every citizen has one share and an equal say in the running of the Republic of Zambia. No one has two shares. And therefore, when shareholders speak about the Republic, don't unleash the police on them. Colonial masters unleashed the federal police. It didn't work out. We cannot wake up every morning scared that when I say something, the police will come, or I'm going to be followed by people with machetes. When somebody speaks, a shareholder speaks, the board, because the state managers, the government is like a management team. Board members are the people of Zambia and the Republic with an equal say. And therefore, when the owners of the Republic say something, those of the board, the management board, must listen to what they are saying, and they must translate the views of the shareholders, the people of Zambia in the enterprise we call Zambia. They must translate those points, the issue that they are raising, into action and transform the country and deliver and go back to them that, look, you said this, we have delivered. This is what you have done. And people say thank you. People give you the mandate. Again, if you fail, the people will fire you. They have the power to do so. And I think this is the kind of mindset, the new thinking that we need to have. And the national debate must not be about any person. The national debate must be about the Republic of Zambia and what we ought to do. Learn from winning ways. We are not going to solve this country's problem by running from country to country. Each country has its own share of problems. Even the countries that we say they are developed, they also have their own share of problems. We cannot be relying on other people's taxpayers' money. We have to mature and look at ourselves now and take responsibility. And it's that these resources are benefiting the Republic of Zambia. Why should foreign elements benefit from the emeralds that we have? When they got their own countries, where they are from, Senegal, wherever they are from, even these mineral resources, if you remember, even at some point in the counter days, when they had all these most Senegalese who came, they are benefiting. People of Zambia, nothing. So instead of creating a crisis, look at what Mwalimu Nyerere did, visionary. He understood that Tanzania had resources, and therefore they started training the people of Tanzania early, identifying minerals. That's why Tanzanians are more trained, they understand. And if you go to all these mining projects that are taking place across the country, some of them that we are calling illegal, Tanzanians are there. They are the majority actually, because people don't know much about processing gold, everything, all this kind of thing. Yeah, they are the ones that are there. So why can't the government learn from that? Instead of declaring the people of Zambia, these young people, illegal, go to each and every district, work with chiefs, work with the church, because the church is everywhere. The Catholic Church especially has structures everywhere. Work with Caritas, let them help you to identify the people. Work with all those CSOs across the country. And they'll give you wisdom. They're going to guide you. That here are the people, here are the groups. Get those groups together, train them, give them the skills that they need. The Minister of Labor must, by now, if you go and ask that Minister of Labor, can you give us the total? How many young people are not employed in each and every district? And how many of those who are not employed are doing something? I don't think that you're going to get those answers. Because in order for us to do what we call reskilling and retooling, let me repeat this. To do reskilling and retooling, you need to get data. Big data is essential to understanding where we are and where we ought to go. We need to speak to data. So go to this district. Do this inventory. Skills inventory, please. Skills inventory. From there, where there are gaps, do reskilling and retooling. And let these groups take charge of the destiny of this nation. Under a properly controlled setup. Don't just declare them. We shut this, and at the same time, then you take foreigners there. As long as they owe your pockets, you are happy. We must be a country that promotes ideas. A country that promotes sharing. So here we are. We are not just criticizing. We are saying these are some of the things that are doable. You do this, you are securing your own security of tenure. Give the people of Zambia electricity, you are securing your own tenure. Zambians can be quite forgiving. But if only we stop taking them for granted. Zambia is a very unique country. Stop exporting electricity. Declare this a crisis and emergency. Because when you declare a state of emergency, not emergency, a state of a crisis or disaster, whatever you call it, as a national disaster, you declare a disaster, power disaster. This is a disaster. When you do that, even those countries who are saying about agreements, they understand it's a disaster. Our economy is collapsing. Industries are collapsing. And therefore, we have to stop exporting electricity. Give power to the people of Zambia. If at all there's any element of fear of God in you guys, stop this nonsense of 2 hours or 3 hours. Stop this nonsense, please, for once. Even have a news conference to go and talk about the stupidity. No, now from 2 hours to 3 hours. 15 hours, 3 hours. You can't feel for the people. You can't feel for those young people whose saloons have been affected across the country. Zambians are very enterprising. And then on the other hand, you the same people say the Zambians are lazy. Pakanobubi. With this thinking, man, oh, Zambians are lazy. Which Zambians are lazy? Zambians are among the most hardworking people. They have saloons. They're trying to do something about their situation, and then you call them lazy. We haven't given them the tools, the means. We need to be angry about these things and be held to account. It's not a sin. It's not a crime to be called to account. It's not a crime. In fact, it's service to you. That if you're not listening, at least pay attention to all these important points. You start this voluntary program, ZNS program voluntary. Very good. But what you're saying is that, go beyond that. Remember at one time in the counter days. First of all, that time of ZCCM, we had a very strong mine police. But at the same time, for strategic reserves, strategic mineral resources, the police, or the state also ensured that even the army sometimes could be involved to go and mine those important resources. Take the military to these mining corporations, and each and every mining company must have someone, must have a team placed in those mining companies to monitor production, to monitor everything. So that this issue of manipulating the figures in order to get away with it must stop. President Sata did this. He appointed one person to be at room 1 to take stock of everything there. And these mining companies can threaten, we are going to close. Let them close and go. Magufuli showed us. The same Barrick, this company that we have, the same company in Tanzania, used the same method to threaten Tanzania. Magufuli said, pack and go. And then the accountant said, you have to pay. I think it was $4 billion, so it was a lot of money. Did they go? They didn't go. And they paid the money. And Tanzania bought new jetliners for the airline. Wise investment. Magufuli is another person of blessed memory that we can learn from what it means when you are patriotic enough, when you are a nationalist, and prioritize the needs of the people. Let them go where they've come from. And then it's like this country, we appear to be attracted to criminals. Look at the owners of this mine. What about this mine this mine in Kitwe? in Kitwan, part of Mufrida, what do you call this mine? Look at the owners. They have been indicted for tax evasions in some countries. Here, they are our friends. And then, look at the smelters. There are so many smelters that are just a white elephant. Because again, these are things that we can do. Look at Zamefa. Why should the country be buying ordinary copper wires? Why not invest in projects like Zamefa and many other projects? So that some of these things can be done right here. So when you are outside there negotiate talking about investments, don't talk about investments just come in the extractive industries alone. No. For extractive industries, we don't even need all these people. Instead, if these are serious investors, if you talk about investors, let them come and invest in setting up factories here. And it must be a country that must be forward-looking. Go to Western Province. That sand in Western Province is money. If you are wise. The sand of Western Province, in case you don't know, it has been tested and that it can be used to make these computer chips. That sand in Western Province. What are we doing to encourage investment in that? Even locally, come up with projects and finance them. So that we can start supplying those chips from Zambia. Go to Mauritius. Mauritius has set up that center. They call it I've forgotten the name, but it's a high-tech center. Huge high-tech center. And I remember in 2008, that year when President Mwanza died, may he rest in peace. It was in 2008. When the committee I was chairing as a member of parliament went on a tour there. Before entering that city, it's an IT city. All the buildings were branded with Zambian colors as we are entering there. Then we went there. It's amazing how industrial people of Mauritius are. Now you can imagine that was in 2008, what they are doing and so forth across industries, ICTs. We don't have that in Zambia. Can we also have a situation where in each and every district we create what we call workspaces for young people? Set up all these infrastructures. This is what the councils must be doing. This is what the Minister of Local Government must be talking about. Putting up such centers for the youth across the country. Let the young people with an idea. When these places I'm talking about, all you need to do is to put a laptop there, a computer, a printer there and so forth. Young people go to these places, just a little bit, that becomes their office. And then these become the seedbed. It's like a nursery, enterprise nursery. We are today's young people are very ingenious. They are geniuses. And then when you place them there, now help them to develop from there. From there, huge industries emerge. Israel's growth is driven by startups. Backyard garden startups. What are we doing to do that? About it? Nothing. Oh no, now we are bringing a company is coming from this country, or they'll create 100 jobs. Or they're creating 200 jobs. It's time to think outside the box. First of all, stop exporting electricity. Before we even talk about power generation, other alternatives, stop exporting electricity. Number one. Number two, sort out these issues in the agriculture sector, pay the farmers, but beyond that, restructure the system, scrap off this FRI, remove it. And instead, reintroduce, we are talking about these crop marketing arrangements, and let the Zambia Farmers Union and all these union groups, like what you used to have, this Northern Cooperative, Southern Cooperative, now put those at district level, unions of cooperatives. So these cooperatives can see the benefits. So these cooperatives can receive even the dividends at the end of the year. This is the only way that we are going to transform our nation. This is the only way that jobs will be created. This is the only way that the economy is going to grow in very creative ways. It is this thinking that we need. Otherwise, just be going around just talking and talking and talking. Tour upon tour. It's the people of Zambia who put you in power. And if the people of Zambia expect only basics, wisdom is profitable to direct. That's what the Bible says. Wisdom is profitable to direct. Listen to the counsel. You cannot be one man, think that, oh no, one man or two, that for a minister, wherever you are, that no, everything's about me. No, Zambia is bigger than you. And this is the thing that we need. Thank you.